Let's talk Jinx, a weekly Jinx video we do every Wednesday about anything to do with Jinx, as well as this video acting as a weekly discussion thread on the Jinx subreddit, our League of Jinx. Make sure to check that out. League of Legends Patch 10.18 Rundown, Jinx Edition. Let's just jump into the patch changes, what might affect Jinx, and some other AD carry changes. Ashe. Ashe right now has been one of those things in pro play that's been a go-to when Caitlyn and Kalista are banned, alongside Senna. So it's created this Ashe-Senna kind of meta in pro play at the moment. So, the base attack damage is actually being decreased on Ashe, and the thing that's kind of nice about that is if you're Jinx in this scenario, remember we've talked about Ashe a little bit before, and how her auto attacks will slow you, and things like that, and it might mess with your orb walking. Well, at least if that's going to continue to be the case, if the base attack damage is decreased from 61 to 59, the trading might be a little bit better for you. It probably will still be bad if she's going all in on you. But one of the things I have to always mention when they're talking about base stats being hit, even if it's just 2 AD, this might mess up Ashe's last hitting. That might be what hurts her more with this kind of a change, is her ability to last hit minions, especially in the early game without a BF sword, things like that, very well. She might miss a few if you're not good at last hitting with Ashe and stuff like that. So as a Jinx, you might be able to actually win this matchup, quote unquote, in lane by just being better at CSing with your minigun and your rockets and stuff like that. Even more so than trying to go pound for pound with the enemy champion and kind of battle it out that way. So keep that in mind, because right now, Ashe has kind of been here to stay for a bit, to the point that some people even miss Kalista and Caitlyn. I don't know if we miss Hat Lady around here, that's a rival of Jinx after all, but just saying, like, somehow that's how the meta evolved, especially in pro play, because that's what this patch felt like a lot was pro play aimed stuff. So that's why there isn't really a Jinx change on this patch, because Jinx has popped up in pro play, but she's not like a super wild outlier, but she's not so weak that they decide they want to buff her more to make her in pro play. Another AD carry that's getting some change is KogMaw, and boy do I love being right sometimes. Remember we talked about KogMaw being good because the AP ratios and stuff again. He's popped up in the mid lane in pro play, especially back like the old days of Season 5, and I made this joke already in yesterday's video, but like back in those days, Season 5, Season 6, he was all over the place. He had to get nerfed back when old Rylai's Crystal Scepter worked differently and stuff like that. And sure enough, they're kind of nerfing him in a way that allows him to still be strong, but open up his weaknesses. So his health growth is going down from 90 to 85, and his armor growth is going from 3.5 to 3.25. And because in the AD lane, if he's in the bottom lane for some reason, you're doing AD damage, that means over time you'll be doing more damage because his armor doesn't scale up as much as it did, right? It's not a whole heck of a lot, but even just in 2 levels, right? He would be going from 3.5 to 7 to now 3.25 to 6.5, so a whole half less armor, and that kind of stacks up over the levels as the lane goes on. You'll be doing slightly more damage, especially with your rocket form, which does 10% more damage, by the way, because you're new to Jinx and you didn't know that. The rocket form, why some people even switch to that, even if minigun feels better, is because the rockets do 10% more of your AD. So that's going to be felt a bit more with KogMaw, and he's going to kind of go back to kind of not being seen and no one willing to play him, I guess, if they open up his weaknesses a bit too much. Misfortune. The base attack speed growth is being increased. I also made this joke yesterday, but I feel like this is like a, hey, Samira's coming, and before she comes though, we want you to remember that this kind of bilge water focused or themed AD carry exists, because she was kind of dominant for a while. They did nerf her a couple times until she wasn't as dominant anymore, and now they're giving her a bit more love once again. I'm not saying Samira is going to replace her completely, by the way. I'm just saying in terms of like the whole bilge water theme and stuff like that. I was making that joke. In terms of this specifically, her attack speed growth is going from 2.25% to a whole 3%. So an increase of 0.75%, and that's per level. Remember, because your attack speed does increase per level, I believe, on at least this champion specifically. So that is going to, add up over time. In 3 levels time, that's going to be up to 9% from what it would be, which would be 6.75%, so not even 7%, right? So slowly, it's going to build up, and that's going to be interesting. When it comes to Strut, the movement speed is going up from 50, 60, 70, 80, and 90 to 55, 65, 75, 85, and 95. So they gave it 5 at all ranks extra. Jinx is immobile. Please be aware of this when you're playing around this in lane by any means necessary. She'll roam back to lane a bit more faster too, depending on the boots and her buys. So back timings will be a little bit of a thing too as well to be concerned about. So if you're pushing a wave in a tower, you're trying to chunk that tower down, be aware she'll be faster a little bit back to lane. You might have to retreat a little bit faster. Twitch. No one remembers Twitch existed, by the way. He's kind of like that ghost that you sometimes see in the corner when you have sleep paralysis, but even then, there are far more things more terrifying than Twitch in the current meta right now. Twitch is like an old school Jinx counter, but he's in such a state that you wouldn't probably even use him as a Jinx counter right now. But his E damage per stack ratio is being increased, and his R bolt damage reduction per enemy hit has been decreased as well. And on Reddit, they describe this as, if right now on live, the first enemy hit by Twitch's ultimate takes 100% damage, but like enemies behind him or around him, and the second hit enemies take like 80% damage, 60%, 40%, and it kind of rolls off that way. Now it's going to be the first enemy takes 100% damage, the second one's hit take 90% damage, 80% damage. It only goes down by 10 instead of going down by 20. So overall, the more he's spraying people, the more damage even secondary and primary targets will be hitting. So as a Jinx, even if you're behind your Maokai or something, you will be taking more damage if you're still in range of this ability. So play accordingly to that. Also, you probably won't be seeing Twitch, so all of what I just said for the past minute is somewhat irrelevant, but there's like the math of what the percentage looks like if you're kind of curious about, okay, what does the change mean specifically for that ultimate damage? Because that could be actually a pretty decent ultimate damage to get him into team fights a bit more often and things like that. Honorable mention to Ezreal because the whole Psyops Ezreal and the Prestige Edition is coming out. I know people feel differently about that champion in solo queue than they do in pro play, but that might be encouraging people to be like, hey, I just want to play this skin. The same way if they dropped like a Jinx skin, for example, in the next patch. Not saying that they are, but if they did, they'd be like, you know, people would be probably playing Jinx to play the skin, just because the skin, especially if it was a good skin. So that being said, that is the bulk of the changes on patch 10.18 of League of Legends. What do you think about Jinx's patch? What do you think with the 80 carry role this patch? And what do you think about some of the changes that we talked about? Again, I talk about them from like the Jinx perspective. In general, and what they mean for like the meta right now is if you look at pro play, when Jinx has popped up, and we've talked about this, it's because some people feel like the meta is kind of moving towards that late game meta kind of a feel. Is it though? And is that doing the case in pro or solo queue as well? And if we do see the meta start shifting towards this kind of late game scaling compositions and stuff like that, could the Twitch change be even bigger? Not because it by itself is good, but because the late game meta is coming, and as such, that will make him better because he'll get the time to scale. Will Jinx be better? We're going to see her a bit more heading into Worlds and stuff like that. Comment with your opinions down in the comment section down below. But thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Hit that bell notification, the actual subscribe button. But I don't know which video will be next, because I have a lot of kinks. So until this time, take care. GG, get jinxed. Thank you for watching, and enjoy pizza responsibly.